and then put it in there, and then what you get out is still too heavy, so you have to upgrade it, or you have to mix it and dilute it. Now, look at mineable. Now you have to extract it, you have to upgrade it before you can do anything about it. So those added steps are what makes it more complex and makes it more costly. I've been told by one of my mentors or one of the very senior people that I've worked with that I have to include this slide in all of my slides. And this is a study that was done. This is a full cycle greenhouse gas emissions. It's interesting and it's reassuring that we're not as bad as we think we are. California has higher greenhouse gas emission than our institute does. Our oil sands, the upgrading, the mining and upgrading, it's still high up there. And I'm not saying we shouldn't change this. I think we should go right down to that yellow line, which is transportation, and then that's someone else's problem, not ours. But what I'm saying is we're not as bad as everyone makes us look. Now, we did this a little while ago, about 2005 probably. Yeah, so two and a half years ago. And this is based on the 2005 NEB numbers. And then add to that the fact that the assumption was that the gas is going to be 6 gigajoule and not 2.4. These were the what the operating cost of oil sands production looked like. Now, I was just looking at Cenovus's annual report. Their SAGD costs, they have been able to bring it down. I think they were at $18, now they're at 12 or 13. So that's a really good news story. That's why I highlighted those two in red, because I don't think they're accurate anymore. Having said that, if you look at integrated mining and upgrading, last time I looked at Suncor, with their numbers, $74 including capital expenditure. That's huge. So if oil somehow drops to below that, which no one thinks it will, then they're going to have a major risk. So any questions on that? Any points of discussion? Yeah?
So how are the greenhouse gas emissions similar for oil sands and other oils? Because it looked like they're pretty similar. Is that because of shipping the oil from the Middle East, or?
So yes. So yes, that's part of the reason, but the other part is like the California, that's a thermal oil as well. So it's transportation, that's part of the Saudi oil. Mexico and Iraq, like there are a lot of inefficiencies. We've come a long way. I think our efficiencies here are way ahead of the rest of the industry. And with that, we've come, because Venezuela, if you think about it, they have a much similar process than we do. So they're at 102, but they're not as cold as we are. So they don't have to heat the steam as hot, and they don't have to keep their lines up. So it's a lot of those extra things that one has to do that comes into play. Transportation is a big part of pushing that up, but efficiencies is another thing. Yeah.
I just have a question about in situ production. Because I know in a lot of ways, like in terms of surface impacts, in situ is better than mining. But aren't there a lot of other environmental impacts in which in situ is actually worse?
Right.
Well, I know, for example, when you heat the steam, you're actually releasing a lot more greenhouse gas emissions.
Well, but then that's the picture that it's giving you, right? Yes, you're right. You do have that, and that's what drives this up to like 105, right? But it's still a better story than mining. So I'm a big, like, first thing, there are things that you can do. There are advancements in technology that are not that distant in the future that would remediate that. There's the non-thermal solutions that companies are working on. And there's another one that GE is going to be really heavy on, and that's the microwave. So instead of using steam, they're going to be using microwaves to heat the reservoirs. So they're doing a lot of things. The good things about Institute is that we have options. We can make it better. It's coming. Like I've worked on projects where it was half steam and the other half was something close to propane. And what that propane does, it actually dilutes the heavy oil, and now you've cut your steam production by half. So we have options. With mining, I'm not saying we don't have options, but I don't think we've got much options.
I was just going to ask then about continued and future development in the oil sands. Is it pretty much primarily going to be all in situ development now, and companies are moving away from mining?
Actually, Suncor is still heavily, like if you look at their portfolio, they still have more mineable than they do in situ. But even them, because they're historically only mining, but even them are moving towards in situ in a big way. And it's two reasons. One is all the mines that could be owned are owned. So if you're looking for new development, it's in the other 80%. But the other part of it, it's less labor intensive, it's less land impact, politically it's not as sensitive, and you know, like mining is dirty business. Well, oil is dirty business, but mining compared to in situ is dirty business. So I think the growth is going to be mainly in situ, but it's not to say that mining is going to stop. You first?
Yeah. Cool. Okay. You mentioned CSSA gave operating costs 24 to 34. Does that include upgrading as well?
No. So you don't need the upgrading that you need for mineable. That's not what you need for in situ, because what you do with the steam, a lot of that refining process happens in your reservoir because you're steaming it, so the lighter of that bitumen comes up. So that's one part. And then when it comes up and when it's heavier, you actually dilute it with diluents, they're called, with lighter crude to send it down the pipeline. Now, your consumer is going to buy that cheaper because if you don't upgrading will get your crude to synthetic crude, which is like the good crude. But the in situ, you're still selling, I think it's called Cold Lake bitumen, and if the oil is at, like there's a differential, if the oil is at $96, that's at like $69, so it's cheaper.
Oh, I think I know the answer, but is in situ take less people to run in situ sites than open pit mines? And I know that you had talked about labor being one of the bigger issues.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, so it is, because you have every truck that you have, and you have, like, I don't know, like mine planning, they have a lot of trucks, because these trucks, they have to like continuously move 24/7. So each one of these trucks would have one driver, equivalent of one maintenance person, and then you have the shovels. So it's, and then in extraction, you actually, I didn't know this, but